The edge of known space. The Kelter system died in silence. From the command deck of the Nvarian dreadnought Harmonious Purpose, Overseer Thane watched through synthetic eyes as the last planetary defense grid flickered and went dark. The Keltrans had resisted for 6 hours, longer than most, shorter than it mattered. Their ships now drifted as frozen monuments to futility, their cities broadcasted surrender on every frequency, and their governing council awaited integration into the collective. Thane felt the satisfaction ripple through the hive link, a shared consciousness connecting every Nvarian warrior across 300 vessels. 27 species had fallen before them in the past decade. The Keltrans made 28. They would all be absorbed, their knowledge catalogued, their resources allocated, their individuality dissolved into the greater purpose. It was inevitable. It was efficient. It was harmony. Commander, a subordinate's thought pulsed through the network. Long-range reconnaissance detects anomalous energy signatures 3 parsecs toward galactic rim. Unknown configuration. Possibly a new species. Thane's multiple hearts quickened in synchronized rhythm. A new species meant new resources, new territory, new worlds to bring into the fold. Redirect Vanguard Fleet 7. Investigate and assess for integration potential. The order flowed through the hive mind like electricity through circuitry. Within moments, 50 warships broke formation and accelerated toward the coordinates. The Nvarian Empire moved with the inevitability of a collapsing star, and nothing had ever stopped them. 3 parsecs away, Captain Eric Hale didn't yet know his species had just been noticed. The TCS Valorian cut through the void like a blade through silk, her hull reflecting starlight in patterns that would have been beautiful if anyone had time to appreciate it. On the bridge, Captain Hale studied the holographic display with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent 20 years reading the spaces between stars. Anything on sensors, Lieutenant Okonkwo? The sensor officer, a woman whose dark skin seemed to absorb the blue glow of her console, shook her head. Negative, Captain. System reads clean. No ships, no stations, no comm traffic. Just rocks and ice, same as the last 12 systems. Hale suppressed a sigh. The Valorian had been commissioned 6 months ago as humanity's answer to the increasingly dangerous galaxy they discovered beyond their borders. She was fast, heavily armed, and equipped with experimental quantum drives that could theoretically outrun anything in known space. The crew of 240 represented the best humanity had to offer. Engineers from Mars, tactical officers from Europa, medical staff from Earth's 5 continents, even a Centauri-born navigator who'd never seen Earth's sky. All that potential, and they'd spent 3 months cataloging empty star systems along the frontier. Hale had joined the Terran Space Corps for exploration and discovery, not glorified cartography. Captain, Lieutenant Chen called from communications, his Mandarin accent still thick despite years in space. Picking up something strange on subspace channels? Degraded signal, heavily fragmented. Origin point approximately 4 light-years spinward. Finally, something interesting. Can you clean it up? Chen's fingers danced across his controls. The bridge speakers crackled, then resolved into a voice, alien, desperate, speaking in a language the Valorian's computers didn't recognize. But the universal translator caught enough. Help us, they come with fire and darkness, resistance is, static consumed the rest. When was this transmitted? Hale asked, leaning forward. 6 days ago, Chen replied, his expression troubled. And Captain, it just cut off. Mid-sentence. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Hale looked to his first officer, Commander Maria Santos, a veteran of the Titan Wars whose instincts he'd learned to trust. She met his gaze with dark eyes that had seen too much death. We should investigate, she said quietly. It's what we're here for. Hale nodded. Helm, set course for the signal origin. Maximum cruise speed. All hands to ready stations. This stops being a milk run right now. The Valorian turned, her engines flaring blue-white, carrying her crew toward a mystery that would change everything. They found the source 36 hours later. A debris field spanning thousands of kilometers, the scattered remains of what had once been a thriving orbital station. The Valorian drifted through the wreckage like a shark through a graveyard, her sensors painting a picture of total annihilation. Energy weapon signatures, Okonkwo reported, her voice hollow. Plasma-based, configuration unknown. Temperature readings suggest the attack happened approximately 4 days ago. Whatever hit them used overwhelming force. I'm reading residual radiation from at least 100 separate impact points. Hale studied the tactical display, his jaw tight. The station had been defended. He could see the twisted remains of weapon platforms, their barrels frozen mid-rotation. They died firing at something, which meant whoever attacked had given them time to fight back. That detail bothered him more than he wanted to admit. An enemy confident enough to let their victims see them coming. "Sir, I've identified the station," Chin announced, cross-referencing hull markings with the Galactic database. "It's Keltorian, a commercial hub, registered population 6,000. Pause. I'm not detecting any life signs. 6,000 people gone." Hale felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. "Pull back to safe distance and deploy a reconnaissance drone. I want detailed scans of those weapon signatures. If there's a new threat out here, Earth needs to know." "Captain?" Okonkwo's voice cracked with urgency. "Contact bearing 270, range 500,000 kilometers. Multiple contacts. Sir, I'm reading 73 distinct ships, configuration unknown, heading directly toward us." The tactical display erupted with red indicators. Hale's blood ran cold as his screens filled with vessel signatures unlike anything in human records. They were angular, geometric, moving in perfect formation, and they were accelerating. "Battle stations." Santos barked. "Shields up, weapons hot." "Incoming transmission," Chin reported. "Audio and visual." "Put it through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a face that would haunt Hale's nightmares. The creature was vaguely humanoid but clearly engineered, too symmetrical, too perfect, with eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. When it spoke, its voice resonated with the harmony of thousands speaking as one. "Primitive vessel. You have entered territory designated for integration into the Nvarian collective. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with disassembly. You have 30 seconds to comply." Hale stood, his heart hammering. This was it, first contact with an enemy humanity had never imagined. He thought of Earth, of the colonies, of the billions who had no idea what was heading their way. He thought of his duty. "This is Captain Eric Hale of the Terran Confederation ship Valorian. We're here on a peaceful mission of exploration. We have no quarrel with your—" 20 seconds. Santos moved beside him, her hand hovering over the weapons console. "Orders, Captain?" Hale made the hardest decision of his life. "Helm, emergency evasion pattern Delta 7. Maximum burn, random vector changes. Weapons, target their lead ship with everything we've got. I want to see what we're up against." He turned to Chin. "Send a priority 1 alert to Earth Command. Full sensor logs, everything we've got on these contacts. Tell them the Nvarians are coming and we need to buy time." 10 seconds. The Valorian erupted into motion just as the Nvarian fleet opened fire. The void lit up with weapon beams that would have vaporized any other ship in humanity's fleet. But the Valorian wasn't any other ship. She twisted through the barrage with grace that shouldn't have been possible for something her size, her experimental maneuvering thrusters firing in sequences no Nvarian tactical computer could predict. Hale gripped his command chair as the ship bucked and rolled. Fire. The Valorian's railguns spoke, hurling hypersonic projectiles at the lead Nvarian vessel. They struck shields that flared brilliant purple, absorbed the impact without apparent effort. But Hale had gotten what he wanted, data. His sensors had tasted those shields, measured their frequency, cataloged their strength. "No significant damage to target," Okonkwo reported. "But we got full scans. Captain, their shields are at least 3 generations beyond ours. And those 73 ships? They're just the vanguard. Long-range sensors are detecting a much larger formation 4 light hours behind them. I'm reading, my God. Thousands of ships." The bridge crew exchanged glances of barely concealed horror. Thousands. Against Earth's 36 capital ships and 100 smaller vessels. How long until they reached the nearest human colony? Hale demanded. Okonkwo ran the calculations, her fingers trembling. At their current speed, 72 hours until they reach Proxima Refuge. 140 hours until they reach Earth. 6 days. They had 6 days to warn humanity, to prepare, to figure out how to fight an enemy that had conquered 28 species without breaking formation. Did the message get out? Hale asked Chin. "Aye, sir. Quantum burst transmission, priority alpha. Earth will have it in 18 hours. Santos met Hale's eyes. "What now, Captain?" Hale watched the Nvarian formation on his display, perfect, ordered, inevitable. They moved like mathematics made manifest, every ship in precise position, every action calculated. They were everything humanity wasn't, unified, predictable, certain of victory. And in that moment, Eric Hale saw not just an enemy, but an opportunity. Now. He allowed himself a grim smile. Now we teach them what happens when you pick a fight with a species too stubborn to know when it's beaten. Helm, plot and intercept course parallel to their advance. Keep us at extreme weapons range. Tactical, I want you to start running simulations. Find me any weakness in those formations, any gap, any pattern we can exploit. Sir, Santos said carefully, we're one ship against thousands. What can we possibly do? Hale's smile widened. We improvise, Commander. We do the one thing their collective hive mind can't predict. We get creative. And while we're keeping them busy, Earth prepares. We're going to buy our people time even if it costs us everything. The Valorian banked hard, settling into a shadowing position just beyond the Nvarian fleet's weapons range. Behind them, the debris of the Keltorian station tumbled through the void, a warning of what awaited humanity if they failed. But Captain Eric Hale hadn't failed yet. And he didn't intend to start now. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The delaying action. The first rule of asymmetric warfare Hale had learned at the academy was simple: never fight the enemy's battle. For 3 days, the Valorian had become a ghost, materializing from the darkness to strike Nvarian supply ships before vanishing into the void. It was working, barely. Target locked, Lieutenant Reeves announced from tactical, her Australian accent crisp with focus. Nvarian transport, heavy cargo configuration, minimal escort. Hale studied the tactical display. The transport wallowed through space 20,000 kilometers ahead, accompanied by 2 destroyer-class vessels. Under normal circumstances, attacking would be suicide. But the Valorian had stopped operating under normal circumstances the moment they decided to wage a guerrilla war against an empire. Weapons free on my mark. Chin, prepare electronic countermeasures. I want those escorts blind and confused for at least 30 seconds. Hale's fingers drummed against his armrest. Engineering, how are we looking? Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka's face appeared on his console screen, oil-smeared and exhausted. The quantum drives are holding, Captain, but we've been pushing them past recommended limits for 72 hours. I can give you one more jump before we need to cycle the coolant systems, or the cores will melt through the containment fields. One more jump. One more chance to hurt them before the Valorian needed to break contact and survive long enough to matter when Earth's fleet arrived. If Earth's fleet arrived. Understood, Chief. Make it count. All hands, attack run in 30 seconds. The Valorian dropped her stealth field and accelerated, her railguns already charging. The Nvarian escorts reacted instantly. Their response time was inhuman literally, but Chen's electronic warfare suite was already flooding their sensors with phantom signals and corrupted data. For precious seconds they fired at targets that didn't exist. The Valorian's first salvo punched through the transport's shields and tore through its hull. Secondary explosions rippled along its spine as ammunition stores cooked off. Hale watched without satisfaction as the transport began breaking apart. He'd long since stopped feeling guilty about these attacks. The Nvarians had made their choice when they'd murdered 6,000 Keltorians. Humanity would return the favor with interest. Escorts breaking formation, Okonkwo reported. They're adapting, abandoning their defensive protocol in favor of offensive pursuit. There it was. The Valorian had been conducting these raids for 3 days, and Hale had finally seen what he'd been looking for, the Nvarians learning. They were adapting to human tactics, abandoning their rigid formations in favor of more flexible responses. It meant they were dangerous. It also meant they could be frustrated. Helm, evasive pattern theta. Take us through that asteroid cluster at 075. The Valorian dove toward a tumbling field of rock and ice, her maneuvering thrusters firing in sequences that looked random but were carefully calculated. The Nvarian escorts followed, their weapons fire tracking through space where the Valorian should have been but wasn't. Hale watched his pilot, Lieutenant Ramos, a hotshot from Luna with reflexes enhanced by neural implants, thread the ship through gaps that shouldn't have accommodated anything larger than a shuttle. Now Reeves, mine's away. The tactical officer triggered their secret weapon. Improvised explosive packages hastily constructed from mining charges and armed with proximity sensors. They tumbled into the asteroid field, indistinguishable from regular debris until the Nvarian escorts came within 50 meters. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. The leading escort disappeared in a flash of nuclear fire. The second took catastrophic damage to its port side, atmosphere venting, its perfect formation destroyed by something as primitive as hidden explosives. Jump coordinates locked, Ramos announced. Ready on your command. Execute. Reality twisted. The Valorian's experimental quantum drives folded space around the ship, carrying them 3 light minutes away in an eye blink. When sensors cleared, the Nvarian fleet was a distant collection of contacts, their pursuit frustrated once again. Santos allowed herself a rare smile. Scratch 1 transport, 2 escorts damaged. That's the 8th supply ship we've taken out. They have to be feeling this, Captain. Hale wasn't so sure. The Nvarian fleet numbered in the thousands. They could afford losses that would cripple any human force. But every ship the Valorian destroyed, every hour they delayed the advance, gave Earth more time to prepare. That was all that mattered. Plot a course to Proxima Refuge, he ordered. Maximum burn. If our intelligence is right, they'll reach the colony in 14 hours. We need to be there first. Proxima Refuge orbited a red dwarf star that bathed its single habitable moon in crimson light. 3,000 colonists called it home. Miners, researchers, families who'd traveled 20 light years to build lives on the frontier. They'd come seeking opportunity and freedom. Instead, they were about to become the first human casualties of the Nvarian invasion. The Valorian dropped from quantum space to find chaos. Civilian transports crowded the orbital approaches, desperately trying to organize an evacuation that had too few ships and too little time. Hale immediately opened a channel to the colony administrator. A middle-aged woman appeared on screen, her face lined with stress. Thank God you're here. We received Earth's warning 6 hours ago. We're trying to evacuate, but we have 4,200 colonists and transport capacity for maybe half that. The rest. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Hale made the calculation instantly. The Nvarian vanguard would arrive in 14 hours. They could evacuate perhaps 2,000 more in that time if they stripped the Valorian's cargo bays and used every cubic meter of space. That still left over 200 people with nowhere to go. We'll take as many as we can fit, he said. But I need you to listen carefully. Tell anyone who refuses evacuation to seek shelter in the deepest mining tunnels. Stock them with supplies, then seal the entrances and flood the surrounding areas with radiation. Enough to mask life signs but not enough to be immediately lethal. Make it look like the colony is dead when the Nvarians arrive. The administrator's eyes widened. You want us to fake our extinction? I want you to survive, Hale corrected. The Nvarians conquer populations, but they haven't shown interest in dead worlds. If they think there's nothing here worth taking, they might pass you by. It's a long shot, but it's better than the alternative. She nodded slowly, the weight of command settling on her shoulders just as it had settled on his. We'll do it. How long do we have? 14 hours. Make them count. The next 13 hours became a desperate race against time. The Valorian's crew worked alongside colonists to strip cargo bays, pack refugees into every available space, and prepare the deception that might save those who remained. Hale watched parents make impossible choices, deciding which family members would evacuate and which would stay behind, hiding in tunnels and praying to survive what was coming. He found Santos supervising the mining operation. They were lacing the approaches to the colony with improvised explosive charges, anything to slow the Nvarians down or make them think twice about landing. She looked up as he approached, sweat streaking her face. This reminds me of Titan, she said quietly. We evacuated 3 mining stations ahead of the rebels. Lost one anyway because we didn't have enough ships. Her jaw tightened. I swore I'd never leave people behind again. We're not leaving them behind, Hale said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. We're giving them a chance. A chance to hide in holes while aliens hunt them. Santos shook her head. Some chance. It's better than no chance at all. Before Santos could respond, alarms shrieked across the colony. Chen's voice crackled through Hale's comm. Captain, long-range sensors just picked up the Nvarian vanguard. They've dropped from quantum space at the system's edge. 45 minutes. 45 minutes. They'd lost hours somehow. The Nvarians had moved faster than predicted. Hale's mind raced through options and discarded them just as quickly. They were out of time. All transports depart immediately, he ordered. Maximum acceleration, scatter formation. Don't give them a single target. He switched channels. Commander Santos, get back to the ship. Now. The next 40 minutes were controlled chaos. Transport ships fled the system on every vector, carrying their precious cargo of refugees toward the nearest human-controlled systems. The Valorian positioned herself between the transports and the approaching Nvarian fleet, her weapons armed, her crew ready to buy minutes with their lives if necessary. The Nvarian vanguard emerged from the darkness like geometric nightmares. 50 vessels in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting the red dwarf's light in patterns that hurt to look at. They moved with the inevitability of an eclipse, and Hale felt his mouth go dry. This was it. The moment that would decide whether the colonists escaped or died. "Captain," Okonkwo said, her voice strained. "They're scanning us. Full spectrum analysis. They know exactly what we are and what we've been doing." The tactical display showed Invarian ships beginning to break formation, some continuing toward the colony, others angling to intercept the fleeing transports. They were adapting again, refusing to focus on a single target. Hale felt his carefully constructed plan crumbling. Then salvation arrived from an unexpected quarter. "New contacts," Okonkwo shouted. "Bearing 180, range 300,000 kilometers. I'm reading." "Captain, I'm reading 47 ships. Configuration matches Scythic merchant fleet." The Scythic. Hale had encountered them once before. A nomadic species that traded across dozens of star systems, neutral in all conflicts, interested only in profit. What were they doing here? The answer came as a tight beam transmission reached the Valorian. A reptilian face appeared on screen, scaled and ancient, eyes gleaming with intelligence that had watched civilizations rise and fall. "Captain Hale," the Scythic trader said in perfect English. "We received your warning about the Invarian advance. We have discussed the matter among our fleet council. The Invarians do not negotiate. They do not trade. They consume. This is bad for business." A pause and something that might have been a smile. "Also, we have decided we don't like bullies." Hale felt hope surge in his chest. "You're willing to help? We will delay them. Create confusion. Give your transports time to escape." The Scythic's expression hardened. "We are merchants, not warriors. We cannot defeat them. But we can be very, very annoying." The Scythic fleet swept into the system, their ships scattering across multiple vectors, broadcasting false sensor signals, deploying chaff and jamming fields that turned the tactical situation into electronic chaos. The Invarians, so confident in their numerical superiority, suddenly found themselves unable to determine which targets were real and which were phantoms. It was the opportunity Hale needed. "All transports jump now. Coordinates Alpha 77. Go, go, go." One by one, the refugee ships vanished into quantum space, carrying their precious cargo to safety. The Valorian remained behind, her weapons hammering at Invarian vessels that tried to pursue, drawing their fire, keeping them focused on the one real military threat while the Scythic merchants led them on a merry chase through the system. When the last transport vanished, Hale allowed himself a breath. They'd done it. 2,800 lives saved. The 200 who remained in the tunnels would have to trust in luck and deception. "Captain," Shin reported, "the Scythic are retreating. The Invarians are regrouping and, sir, they're not pursuing the transports. They're heading for the colony. All of them." Hale watched 15 Invarian warships converge on the small moon that had been Proxima Refuge. Weapons fire lanced down from orbit, precise and measured. They were testing the surface, probing for life signs. Hale held his breath, praying that the colonists' radiation shielding would hold, that the deception would work. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then, slowly, the Invarian fleet pulled back from the moon, leaving it scarred but intact. They'd found nothing worth claiming. Nothing worth conquering. "They're moving on," Okonkwo whispered. "They're leaving." Hale slumped in his command chair, exhausted. They'd won. Not a victory in any traditional sense. They'd lost a colony, left people in hiding, barely escaped with their lives. But they'd saved lives. They'd proven that the Invarians could be delayed, confused, outmaneuvered. They'd proven that humanity could fight. "Plot a course to the Kepler's gate system," he ordered. "Maximum burn. According to our intelligence, that's where Earth's reinforcement fleet is assembling. It's time we stopped running." Santos moved beside him, her expression unreadable. "Captain, the Invarian main fleet is still heading for Earth. We bought maybe 12 hours with this action. That's not enough time." "Then we'll buy more," Hale said simply. "We'll buy every hour, every minute, every second we can. Because that's what humans do, Commander. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We make them earn every light year, every world, every life." He met her eyes. "And when they finally reach Earth, they're going to find a species that's had time to prepare, time to rally, time to remember that we're not prey for their empire. We're apex predators who've clawed our way to the stars, and we don't intend to give them up without a fight." The Valorian turned away from Proxima Refuge, her hull scarred, her systems strained, her crew exhausted but unbowed. Behind them, 200 colonists emerged from their tunnels to find their world intact and their enemy gone. The Scythic merchant fleet scattered to spread the word across the galaxy. The humans were fighting back, and they were stranger, more creative, and more dangerous than anyone had predicted. And 3 days away, the Nvarian main fleet adjusted course toward Earth, confident in their superiority but no longer certain of their inevitable victory. The delaying action had bought humanity time. Now came the reckoning. The battle for humanity. The Kepler's gate system had never been strategically important, until now. 2 gas giants orbited a dying star, their massive forms wrapped in turbulent storms and trailing debris fields. Between them, humanity had chosen to make its stand. Captain Hale stood on the bridge of the Valorian, studying the tactical display that showed 8 Terran vessels arrayed in defensive positions. Against the 3,000 ships of the Nvarian main fleet, it looked less like a military formation and more like a desperate prayer. Final count from Earth Command, Santos reported, her voice carefully neutral. 5 frigates, 2 destroyers, and us. The rest of the fleet is still 2 days out. We're buying them time to evacuate Earth's equatorial cities. 2 days. Hale did the math and didn't like the answer. The Nvarians would reach Earth in 48 hours. After Earth fell, they'd systematically consume every human colony, every station, every vessel. Humanity would become entry number 29 in their catalog of conquered species. Unless the 8 ships at Kepler's gate performed a miracle. Incoming transmission from Admiral Chin, the comm officer announced, coincidentally sharing a surname with the Valorian's comm specialist, though no relation. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on screen. Catherine Chin had fought in 3 wars, commanded fleets that had secured humanity's expansion into the outer colonies, and earned a reputation as the most tactically brilliant officer in the Terran Space Corps. She looked tired now and old and determined. Captain Hale. I've read your reports on the Nvarians, their formations, their adaptability, their weaknesses. You've done well. She paused. You've also placed yourself between an unstoppable fleet and our homeworld with a single ship. That takes either courage or insanity. I'm not sure which. A bit of both, Admiral. Chin's expression softened slightly. Your guerrilla campaign bought us time. The Sithik spreading word through neutral systems has given us allies we didn't expect. But time's up. The Nvarians are 12 hours from this system, and when they arrive, we need to hit them harder than any force has ever hit them before. She leaned forward. I'm not ordering you to die here, Captain. But I am asking if you and your crew are willing to make this count. Hale looked around his bridge. Okonkwo at sensors, her dark eyes steady. Chin at communications, jaw set with determination. Ramos at the helm, his enhanced reflexes already running combat simulations. Santos beside him, the veteran who'd seen too much death but never flinched from duty. And beyond them, 240 souls who'd followed him through 3 days of guerrilla warfare, never questioning, never hesitating. We didn't come this far to quit now, Admiral. The Valorian stands with you. Chin nodded slowly. Then let me tell you about Operation Crucible. It's insane, it's desperate, and it's the only chance we've got. The Nvarian fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, their ships arranged in geometric patterns that spanned thousands of kilometers. Overseer Thane observed the human defensive positions with the collective intelligence of the hive mind, processing tactical data from 1,000 perspectives simultaneously. 8 ships. The humans had brought 8 ships to stop an empire. It was almost sad. Almost. The primitive vessels are broadcasting a message. A subordinate's thought pulsed through the network. Shall we acknowledge? Thane considered. The humans had proven more troublesome than expected. Their single ship had delayed the vanguard by nearly a full day through tactics that bordered on chaotic. But chaos was inefficient. Chaos was inferior to the perfect order of the collective. These humans would learn or they would be absorbed. The outcome was inevitable either way. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the communication display. She looked small and fragile compared to the Nvarian command structure. A single mind trying to direct multiple vessels, inefficient and slow. Yet there was something in her eyes that made Thane's biological components experience what humans might call unease. Nvarian fleet, Chen said calmly, you've conquered 28 species through superior numbers and tactics. You believe resistance is futile. You believe we'll surrender or be destroyed. She paused. You're wrong. Humanity doesn't surrender. And we don't fight fair. The transmission cut off. Then the nebula between the gas giants ignited. Hale gripped his command chair as the Valorian plunged into the storm of light and fire that had once been a dormant gas cloud. Operation Crucible had taken 12 hours to prepare, seeding the nebula with thousands of explosive charges, each one calibrated to trigger in a precise sequence that would turn the entire region into a weapon. The Nvarian fleet, so confident in their sensors and formation integrity, had flown straight into the trap. Detonate. Admiral Chen's voice cracked across the fleet channel. The nebula exploded in a cascade of nuclear fire, plasma discharges, and quantum detonations. Invariant ships that had survived battles across a dozen star systems found themselves blind, their sensors overwhelmed, their formations scattered by explosions that bloomed from every direction. The perfect geometric patterns dissolved into chaos. All ships weapons free. Chen ordered. Target the command carriers, disrupt the hive link. The 8 Terran vessels struck like vipers. The Valorian led the charge, her railguns hammering at a massive Invariant command ship that was still trying to reorient from the blast. Hale watched his weapons tear through shields weakened by the nebula's interference, punching through armor, finding the vulnerable quantum transmitters that linked the ship to the collective consciousness. The command carrier shuddered, its hive link severed. Suddenly 50 vessels under its control lost coordination, their movements becoming erratic, confused. They were still dangerous, still heavily armed and shielded, but now they fought as individuals rather than a unified mind. And humanity excelled at exploiting confusion. Contact bearing 095. Okonkwo shouted. Invariant destroyers, 3 of them, closing fast. Evasive pattern Omega, Hale ordered. Reeves target their lead ship. Chin jam their tactical frequencies. I want them deaf and blind. The Valorian twisted through space in patterns no sane pilot would attempt. Ramos pushing the ship through maneuvers that made the hull groan and the inertial dampeners scream. Invariant weapons fire carved through space where they should have been, missing by meters. Return fire from the Valorian's railguns caught one destroyer amidships, its shields failing under the sustained barrage. But more Invariants were coming. So many more. Captain, we've lost the frigate Thermopylae, Santos reported, her voice tight. Destroyer Horatius reporting critical damage to main engines. Admiral Chen is reforming the line, but we're being overwhelmed. Hale checked the tactical display. The operation had worked. They disrupted the Invariant hive mind, scattered their formations, proven they could be hurt. But the sheer numbers were telling. For every Invariant ship destroyed, 10 more pushed forward. The human vessels were being driven back, their desperate attack turning into a fighting retreat. They needed something more. Something the Invariants couldn't predict. Engineering status on quantum drives? Chief Tanaka's face appeared on his screen, and Hale's stomach dropped. Behind her, the engineering deck was a scene of barely controlled chaos. Fire suppressed, coolant leaking from damaged conduits, crew members working frantically to keep the experimental drives online. We've been running them at 140% capacity, Captain. The containment fields are failing. I can give you one more jump, maybe 2 if we're lucky, but after that the cores will breach. We'll be dead in space or dead in reality, depending on which goes critical first. 1 jump. Hale looked at the tactical display again, seeing the Invariant fleet slowly but inevitably overwhelming the human defensive line. He thought about Earth, about the billions counting on this fleet to buy them time. He thought about the colonists hiding in tunnels on Proxima Refuge, the Scythic merchants who'd risked everything to help, the 27 species who'd surrendered to the Invariants without a fight. And he made a decision that would either save humanity or end his career, assuming he survived long enough for a court-martial to matter. All ships, this is Captain Hale of the Valorian. I'm uploading new tactical coordinates to your navigation systems. When I give the signal, break off engagement and jump to those positions immediately. Don't question, don't hesitate. Just jump. Santos turned to him, eyes wide. Captain, what are you? Trust me, Commander. Admiral, with respect, you need to order a tactical withdrawal. Now. There was a long pause. Then Chen's voice, calm despite the chaos. All ships, execute Captain Hale's coordinates. Jump on my mark. The Terran fleet broke formation, each ship activating quantum drives and vanishing from the Invariant firing solutions. The enemy must have thought humanity was retreating, running from the inevitable. They pressed forward, eager to finish the battle. They didn't realize they were being herded. Helm, Hale said quietly, plot a jump vector directly through the Invariant flagship. Not around it. Through it. Ramos turned from his console, his enhanced reflexes letting him process the order faster than most. Sir, we've never tested the drives for that kind of precision. The quantum calculations alone. Can you do it? The pilot's eyes gleamed. I can do it. Then light them up. The Valorian hung in space for 3 heartbeats, her quantum drives building to a power level that made every instrument on the bridge scream warnings. The Invariant flagship, the massive dreadnought Harmonious Purpose, bore down on them, weapons charging for a killing blow. Hale watched Overseer Thane's face on the view screen, Saw the moment the Varian commander realized what humanity was about to attempt. Saw the fear, yes, actual fear, flicker across those synthetic features. Jump. Reality fractured. The Valorian didn't move through space so much as she moved through the quantum foam that underlay reality itself. For an instant that lasted an eternity, the ship existed in a state between dimensions, neither fully real nor fully abstract. And in that impossible moment, she occupied the same coordinates as the harmonious purpose. Matter couldn't exist in two places simultaneously. The quantum drives didn't care about what matter wanted. Hale felt the ship shudder as they materialized on the far side of the flagship, and in their wake, the harmonious purpose simply unfolded. The quantum interference tore the massive vessel apart at the molecular level, its atoms scattered across 3 dimensions, its hull disappearing in a cascade of light that looked almost beautiful. Overseer Thane and 3,000 Varian minds vanished from the collective consciousness in an instant. The hive link shattered. Later, analysts would describe what happened next as the single most catastrophic tactical failure in Varian military history. When the flagship's destruction severed the central hive link node, 3,000 ships lost coordination simultaneously. Vessels that had moved with geometric precision suddenly found themselves without orders, without strategy, without the collective intelligence that had conquered species across the galaxy. They were still dangerous. They were still heavily armed. But for the first time in Varian history they were confused. And confusion, humanity had learned long ago, was deadlier than any weapon. Admiral Chen's fleet materialized at their new coordinates, positioned in a perfect crossfire pattern around the disorganized Varian formation. The human vessels opened fire simultaneously, targeting command and control nodes, exploiting gaps in the now chaotic defensive patterns. The Scythic merchant fleet arrived from the outer system, their ships broadcasting false sensor signatures and electronic warfare attacks that turned the Varian tactical situation from bad to catastrophic. They couldn't destroy the Empire's fleet, not even close, but they could make every Varian sensor officer question which targets were real and which were phantoms. And then Earth's main fleet dropped from quantum space. 47 capital ships, 200 smaller vessels, carrying humanity's full military might. They'd been 2 days out when the battle began. Somehow, through desperate calculations and drives pushed past safety limits, they'd arrived in time. Admiral Wei's voice boomed across the fleet channel. All ships, formation Delta Prime. Fire at will. Show them what happens when you threaten our world. The Battle of Kepler's Gate lasted 6 hours. The Varian fleet, reeling from the loss of its command structure and facing an enemy that fought with creativity born of desperation, made a decision unprecedented in their empire's history. They retreated. 3,000 ships, scattered and damaged, pulled back from human space. They'd return eventually. Hale had no illusions about that. The Varian Empire was too vast, too powerful to be defeated by one battle. But they'd learned something today: humanity wouldn't surrender. Humanity wouldn't be absorbed. And humanity would make them pay in blood for every light year they tried to take. The Valorian limped back to Earth orbit 3 days later, her hull scarred by weapon strikes, her quantum drives permanently burned out from that impossible maneuver. Chief Tanaka had performed miracles keeping the ship together, but even miracles had limits. The Valorian would need 6 months of repairs before she flew again. Hale stood on the observation deck watching Earth turn below, blue and green and beautiful, exactly the way he remembered from academy graduation 20 years ago. The planet was still there. Still free. Still human. Santos joined him at the window. Casualty reports just came in. We lost 4 ships. 2,300 crew members dead. She paused. But we saved Earth. We saved the colonies. We proved that Varians can be beaten. Until they come back with better tactics and more ships, Hale said quietly. Then we'll beat them again. And again. However many times it takes. Santos smiled slightly. You heard what the Scythic are calling us? The stubborn apes who don't know when to quit. It was meant as an insult, but I kind of like it. Hale laughed, genuinely laughed for the first time in a week. Yeah, I like it too. The comm panel chimed. Admiral Chen's face appeared, looking less tired than before. Victory had that effect. Captain Hale, you're wanted at fleet headquarters. There's going to be a formal inquiry into your creative interpretation of tactical protocols during the battle. Hale winced. How much trouble am I in? Chen's expression remained serious for 3 seconds, then broke into a smile. None whatsoever. The inquiry is a formality so we can officially commend you for the most insane, reckless, brilliant tactical maneuver in Terran military history. You jumped a ship through an enemy flagship, Captain. The physics team is still trying to figure out how you survived. To be honest, Admiral, so am I. Well, don't get too comfortable. We need that tactical brilliance. The Nvarians will be back, and next time they'll be ready for our tricks. Chen's smile faded. But so will we. You bought us time, Captain. Time to prepare, time to build, time to find allies and develop weapons that can stand against them. When they return, they won't find the same desperate defense they faced at Kepler's gate. They'll find a humanity that's ready for war. The transmission ended. Hale turned back to the window, watching Earth turn beneath him. Santos was right, the Nvarians would come back. The war had only just begun. But humanity had proven something important today. They could be hurt. They could be confused. They could be beaten. And humanity? Humanity would never, ever quit. Behind him, the bridge crew of the Valorian began the long process of damage reports and system checks. Below him, Earth City celebrated their survival. Around him, the Terran Space Corps mobilized for the war that was coming. Captain Eric Hale allowed himself one moment of satisfaction, one breath of relief. Then he turned from the window and headed back to the bridge. There was work to do. There were always more battles to fight, more threats to face, more impossible odds to overcome. But that was fine. That was what humanity did. They were the stubborn apes who didn't know when to quit. And the galaxy was only beginning to understand what that meant.